Hello everyone. Today we are going to study about joints. So what is a joint? Joint is any articulation between two or more bones. Now joint is classified in three types: on the basis of number of bones, on the basis of uniting material, and on the basis of movement. Now let us discuss each of them in detail. So on the basis of number of bones, joints are classified as simple joint and compound joint. What is this simple joint? So this simple joint is a type of joint in which only two bones are involved. Like this is a scapular bone, this is another humerus bone. So in this joint, shoulder joint, only two bones are involved. So this particular joint is known as simple joint. Now we have compound joint. What is compound joint? Compound joint is a type of joint where more than two bones are involved, like knee joint. Here you can see this is humerus, this is tibia and fibula, and patella. So there are various bones involved. So it is a compound joint. So this was the classification on the number of bones. Now let us study the most important classification on the basis of uniting material. So on the basis of uniting material, joints are classified as fibrous joint, cartilaginous joint, and synovial joint. And on the basis of movement, they are classified as synarthrodial joint, amphiarthrodial joint, and diarthrodial joint. Now, firstly, let us study about the fibrous joint. Fibrous joint is a type of joint in which there is presence of fibrous protein. It is composed of fibrous protein. Fibrous protein can be in the form of hyaline cartilage. Okay. Now fibrous joint is classified under four types: syndesmosis, sutures, shindylisis, and gomphosis. Firstly, let us discuss about sutures. What are these sutures? Now sutures are seen only in skull. This is one important point. If you see in your skull, these fibrous joint are known as what? Sutures. So in sutures, opposite ends of bone are united by fibrous tissue. This is the end of one bone and this is the end of other bone. So this fibrous joint between these two flat bones constitute sutures. These sutures are further classified as suture serrata, suture foliata, suture squamosa, and suture harmonia. Now let us see what is this suture serrata. So suture serrata possess serrated edges. What suture serrata possess? Serrated edges. Like you can see here, we have these serrated edges, this kind of a thing. So this is suture serrata. It is generally found in frontal suture. The frontal suture is serrated suture. Now second is suture foliata. Its characteristic is that it has both suture harmonia and suture serrata. Let us come to this suture foliata after a while. Now let's see what is this suture squamosa. In suture squamosa, one bone overlaps the other bone. Here it is suture squamosa. Like this is one bone, it is overlapping this bone. So these bones are overlapped by one another. So it is suture squamosa. What is its example? Between parietal and temporal layer. So if you will see your parietal layer and temporal layer, there you will find this suture squamosa. Now what is this suture harmonia? Suture harmonia is a type of suture in which you will find smooth edges. Like it would be like this. There would be no serrated edges. Okay. So it is also a plain suture, like nasal suture. You can see here, this is a plain suture here. There is no serration or other kind of thing. So it is a plain suture. Now let us finally come to suture foliata. So suture foliata consists of characteristics of both suture harmonia, which was plain, and suture serrata, which was serrated. So it is partially serrated, we can say. Suture foliata. What are its examples? Articulation between maxillary and zygomatic bone in the skull region. So ठीक है, the maxillary and zygomatic bone, the articulation between these constitutes suture serrata. So this was all about sutures. Now let us come to other definitions. Like I said you, what was fibrous joint? Bones are held together by fibrous tissue, joint cavity is absent. Now what is this joint cavity? We will learn it is in synovial joint, but let us remember here that if there would be a large cavity, large vacuum kind of a thing, large space between two bones, that constitute the joint cavity. So in fibrous joint, joint cavity is absent. Now let us we also learned about these sutures. Now let us learn about syndesmosis. What is this syndesmosis? So in syndesmosis, what we can see that here uniting material is a mixture of elastic and fibrous tissues. So in syndesmosis, you will find both things, elastic tissue as well as fibrous tissue. Elastic tissue as well as fibrous tissue. Where? In syndesmosis. So this, now you have to remember that syndesmosis is a type of joint. It joins two bones. Like here you can see tibia and fibula are joined by which kind of thing? Syndesmosis. So syndesmosis is a type of joint between tibia and fibula. Okay. Now let us now look to shindialysis. And one thing I forget, that this syndesmosis is a fibrous joint which compose of fibrous tissue as well as elastic tissue, and its typical example is this particular region where tibia and fibula are articulated. Now let us come to the shindialysis region. Now in shindialysis, one bone fits in the groove of other bone. What happens? That one bone fits in the groove of other bone like this. This is the rostrum of sphenoid bone. This fit into the groove of vomer bone. So this is a groove where this bone fits. So this is shindialysis, articulation between sphenoid and vomer bone. Understood? So shindialysis is a type of fibrous joint where one bone fits in the groove of other bone. The typical example is articulation between sphenoid and vomer bone. Now let us have a look on gum fosses. In gum fosses, there is an articulation between root of teeth with alveolar socket. This is our alveolar socket, this is our tooth. So this fibrous joint between tooth and this gum or alveolar socket is known as gum fosses. So this is also a fibrous joint and it is an immovable joint. This is gum fosses. Okay. You can see this is a structure of plain suture. This is serrated one. This is squamous suture where one bone overlaps onto the other. And this is also another type of suture, denticulate. Here you can see this is a type of arrangement here. Now let us come to the next portion. As we classified joints on the basis of uniting material. The first one was fibrous joint. Now let us come to the next one, that is cartilaginous joint. Here bones are completely joined by cartilage, which is made up of hyaline or fibrocartilage. Okay, hyaline or fibrocartilage. As we studied here about cartilaginous joints. Now cartilaginous, as you studied that what are cartilaginous joints? These are the joints in which there is presence of hyaline or fibrocartilage. It has two types, synchondrosis and symphysis. In synchondrosis, hyaline cartilage is present, and in symphysis, fibrocartilage is present. Like in the case of ribs, you can see this is hyaline cartilage which is joining these ribs with sternum. So it is a type of synchondrosis. Why chondro? Because chondrocytes are present in cartilage, and you can see fibrocartilage is present. It is pubic symphysis, like in the oscoxy bone or hip bone. Also in the joint between occipital and sphenoid, you find this synchondrosis. So this was all about cartilaginous joint. Now the most important joint, we will discuss it in the next video, that is synovial joint. Till then, bye.